Tensions in Iran have reached a boiling point. So far, the conflict has been defined by air power and missile exchanges. But the big question now is, will it stay that way? Could we be on the brink of a wider escalation? Will the United States and Israel consider deploying ground forces? My colleague breaking down the crisis going on in Iran.
Let's tell you what the entire concern has been about, the ground invasion question, whether that will happen or not. A key question now is whether this war will remain limited to air and missile exchanges, or it could escalate further. Will the United States and Israel deploy ground troops? That has been the big question for weeks now. Could this situation turn into a full-scale ground invasion? Let's get a sense of where things stand right now. Remember, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held a press conference on Thursday this week. He said that a war with Iran could end faster than people think, and that a ground operation in Iran would be needed to overthrow the regime.
It is often said that you can't do revolutions from the air. That is true. You can't do it only from the air. You can do a lot of things from the air, and we're doing, but there has to be a ground component as well.
Now remember, in any modern war, fighting typically unfolds across multiple fronts. The first one, as we have seen in this entire war, has been the air warfare. The aerial warfare has been the most active. Remember, currently the most visible in this entire war, with drones and missiles being used. Most of the action is in the skies, with fighter jets and drones carrying out continuous strikes on key military and strategic targets. Apart from this, remember, there is land and sea as well. As far as land is concerned, remember, land-based missile and rocket attacks have been continuing. They have been active in this war. Missiles and drones are being launched from land towards cities, bases, as well as critical infrastructure. And there is, of course, the water, sea and naval warfare that continues. It's less visible, but it is active. Remember, warships and patrol forces are involved, including sea-to-ground strikes to control important waters. Now, there is another option that is being talked about, and that is the ground troop invasion. There has been no ground invasion so far, but it remains a possibility if this war escalates. And that is why this has been a big concern. While Netanyahu on Thursday suggested the possibility of a ground invasion, remember, American President Donald Trump on the same day has said that he had no plans to commit ground forces to the war in Iran. But Trump still left some room for changing his stance in the future. And that raises an obvious question. Which countries has the United States invaded or militarily intervened in the recent decades? Let's take you through. Remember, since the end of the Cold War, the United States has engaged in several large-scale military invasions and interventions abroad. It has invaded Afghanistan, for example, in October 2001. We all know how that fared. After the September 11th attacks to dismantle Al-Qaeda is when America started this ground invasion back in 2001. They wanted to remove the Taliban from power, leading to a long 20-year war and occupation. Then, in March 2003, the focus shifted to Iraq. The US and allied forces invaded Iraq to overthrow Saddam Hussein. They cited the threat of weapons of mass destruction, which triggered a prolonged conflict and insurgency. And then, in January 2026, as we all saw, US forces carried out the controversial military operation in Venezuela. They struck targets and captured President Nicolas Maduro and his wife in Caracas. This was part of the broader campaign that the US framed as counter-narcotics and security action. Let's also now look at the elite military units from both US and Israel, the forces most often used for high-risk or precision. Remember, look at the comparison here. As far as America is concerned, Delta Force, Navy SEALs and para-rescue men are there. US Navy SEALs, remember, famously carried out the 2011 mission that killed Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden, and the para-rescue men of America also have been significant in several military operations. As far as Israeli elite units are concerned, there is Sayeret Matkal, Shaitet 13 and Shaldag. These are the three units which really hold a lot of significance in the Israeli military. As far as Sayeret Matkal is concerned, remember Israel's top deep reconnaissance and hostage rescue unit is this one. And it has conducted high-risk raids, including actions against Iranian-linked targets in Syria. Meanwhile, Shaita 13, this particular unit is the Israeli equivalent of the U.S. Navy SEALs. And the Shaldag, this one, is the elite Israeli Air Force commando unit that is trained if the U.S. and Israel decide a full-scale ground invasion of Iran. And it would be extremely challenging. Remember, Iran covers 1.63 million square kilometers. It has a population of 92.4 million people, and therefore, it is geographically about 4 times larger than Iraq and contains extensive mountainous regions and terrain as well. And that's why a lot of strategic experts have been saying that Iran is not Iraq, not just militarily, but topographically, the entire region is hard to contain. This makes the occupation and sustained ground combat far more complex in Iran. Analysts have been saying that any U.S. mission to recover nuclear material would be highly targeted and limited, unlike the Iraq invasion. It would likely involve small specialized units such as the 82nd Airborne Division. And we'll also go through the targets, whether it's Navy SEALs or the Army Special Forces, they all have been, prepared to invade on ground if there is a command from U.S. and Israeli leadership. Their targets would be nuclear sites like Natanz, Fordo and Isfahan in Iran, as well as the Kharg Island. Remember, these 3 sites came under attack back in June 2025 as well in that 12-day war. Kharg Island has been in focus this year. Operations would begin with air superiority and suppression of the Iranian defenses, followed by precise, fast ground actions that are focused on intel gathering. But remember, Iran has made it clear that they are prepared for whatever comes their way. Take a listen.
We are ready. Even maybe you have seen the news that many Iranian people, after the first strike on the Kharg, they voluntarily took the ships to the Kharg Island to defend. They said, okay, we are ready to combat with Americans, because they actually said we are bringing the troops, some things. We said, okay, we are ready. As our foreign minister mentioned, that we are, for 20 years, we are well prepared. We are waiting for them on the ground. If they have there, okay, please, and you can try it.
So while Iran has been giving a befitting reply to American and Israeli strikes, remember, U.S. and Israeli leadership so far have been contrasting as far as the ground invasion question is concerned. We'll have to wait and watch whether this option is eventually exercised or not.